Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle, featuring your hosts, the writer, Chris Pike, and the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode here of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle for 2021. And it's finally here, Shawn. We've finally got to the start of the NBL season almost. We're days away. I don't want to jinx it by saying that because we don't want to have a false start, but let's hope that we're just hours away now from the start of the NBL season. It's scheduled to get underway Friday night in Adelaide. All of the games for this round one, either in Adelaide, Cairns or Brisbane. So let's hope everything's all on track for that. And we've got a big show here for the first one of 2021 of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. Thanks to Hoops Heaven for making it happen. We've got some exciting announcements of what we've got planned for the show in 2021. And of course, as you heard, if you tuned in for our Christmas episode, Damian Martin will be joining us as well as myself, Chris Pike, and the man who you all want to hear from, the scoring machine, the Perth Wildcats legend, Shawn Redhage. Happy New Year, and thanks for coming back with me for another season.
Happy New Year, Pikey. I'm excited, just days away from the start of the NBL season, and I think it's the fans are dying for some basketball action. So we're excited. Let's hope everything goes to plan, and we get to see some round one live basketball on January 15th.
Yeah, let's hope so. We've had a false start. We should have already been into the season. We originally were meant to have had a game already, the Melbourne Derby, which didn't end up happening. A couple of Perth Wildcats home games, which were meant to be happening this weekend, are no longer happening. So that means you've got an extra week to fine-tune your work courtside, Shawn, which we'll get to a little bit later because you've got some either competition or some friendly faces alongside you this season as well for the games at RAC Arena. Now, we've got a lot to look forward to on this show. We'll give our season predictions later on in the show. And we've got a special announcement of a new partner, someone synonymous with Western Australia, which just makes sense for yourself, Shawn, and for Damo to team up with. And we're going to be raising money for charity. We're going to be having a bit of competition between you and Damo, which is going to be fascinating to follow. So we'll announce that shortly. We'll be giving all of our predictions for the season on this week's show. We'll give our round one predictions as well. We'll have a chat to Damian Martin. It's just great to have the season so close now, isn't it, Shawn? Because usually we're getting close to your birthday. Usually that spells just about time to start getting ready for playoffs, but we're just getting ready for round one, and I think everyone's just pretty excited for that.
Yeah, I ran into Jesse Wagstaff, the new Wildcats captain, earlier this week, and he did talk about that in that. It's in this time of year, you're almost getting ready for finals. I mean, by mid-February, you're some teams would have already locked in finals positions, or you're kind of jockeying for a top four spot potentially. So it's interesting that we're only just starting now, but I think from everyone's point of view, they're just excited we're able to have a season and able to get underway. So it's been a long preseason for these players, and there'll be plenty of nerves come round one. We'll see how they handle it.
Now, if you're new to our show here at Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, I'm Chris Pike, one of the co-hosts. You might have seen my work on nbl.com.au, among other places. I remember first covering the league back in 2005, 2006, Shawn, and back then when I used to rock up at Challenge Stadium and cover Wildcats games, you were the man. The place would go absolutely crazy for the scoring machine. You were averaging 30 points a night. You were an absolute unstoppable beast. So that was my first introduction to you, and I just looked up to you in awe, watching what you could do on the court and how beloved you were on the basketball court. And obviously over the last 15 years, I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time with you and watch your whole career from there, and obviously spend some time getting to know you. And to now do this podcast with you is something that I'm humbled by, the fact that you're willing to do this. So that's a little bit of background on how we started. But if you don't know who Shawn Redhage is still and you're tuning into this show, he ended up playing 393 NBL games, won 4 championships with the Perth Wildcats, including one as captain and including one in his farewell game as well. He was a 2-time All-NBL first-team member, a record 6-time Perth Wildcats club MVP, despite growing up in America and doing some hard yards on the cornfields there in Nebraska. He ended up representing Australia at the 2008 Olympic Games. He won Siebel championships. He won a championship in Puerto Rico, won an SBL championship here in Western Australia since his retirement. He's created Redhage basketball into a powerhouse right now, which is one of the most respected basketball coaching programs in the country. You'll still see his friendly face and his dulcet tones on the NBL broadcast this season. That's a little bit of background on the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. When people want a quick snapshot of who you are, Shawn, what's the one thing that you like them to know about you?
I'm just pretty privileged to be able to utilize the game of basketball take me around the world. I'm not sure there's something that you say synonymous with it, but you mentioned Nebraska, humble beginnings. That's kind of how I feel. I just feel lucky I was able to play professional basketball, have an impact, and still around in the game, being able to coach so many young juniors, and then also get to sit on the sidelines, best seat in the house, alongside you, and watch some incredible athletes play basketball. So I just feel like I'm on vacation, living here in Perth on a daily basis, and still get to be involved with the game that I grew up and loved, just in the garage, in the wintertime in Nebraska, where the only way you could play was put on some gloves and be able to shoot, and just fell in love with the game, and lucky to still be involved.
No, fantastic. Now, we are here thanks to Hoop 7. Hoop 7 have been our number one backers since we started this podcast almost 18 months ago now, Shawn, or at least that's when we first broached the idea of it. Hoop 7, you can check them out at hoop7.com.au, or if you live close by and you live in Perth, their store on Murray Street in the Perth City is, it has to be seen to be believed, it's one of the best basketball stores in the world, I have no doubt. So make sure you support them by either going online or checking out their physical store. But we've got some big announcements to make, Shawn. We are very privileged to have had some positive response to adding some partnerships to our show here at Basketball Hustle for this season, and the fact that Shawn Redhage and Damian Martin are able to team together now in our preview segment. The last two Perth Wildcats championship captains, they won 10 NBL titles between them. I'm not sure what I'm doing in the company of two such legends, but I'm humbled to be doing so, and I'm delighted to be able to bring the pair to you in our preview segments for this season, thanks to Tab Touch. So Tab Touch have been very keen to come on board. It's a West Australian company, and when they had the chance to team up with two Perth Wildcats icons and two icons of WA sport, they were very excited about the prospects, Shawn. So they're on board for our preview segment for this season. They're going to be proud partners of ours, and what they're keen to do is raise some money for charity. So we spoke before Christmas when you and Damo got together. We saw the competitive nature in both of you, and we wanted to find a way to release that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pit the two of you together each and every week. Tab Touch is going to be kind enough to set up a betting account for the pair of you, and you're going to be able to place and pick your bets of the week each and every week here on the show. And the money that you end up raising throughout this NBL season will be going to a charity of your choice. So very kind of Tab Touch to jump on board with us here at Basketball Hustle. And the bonus is that you and Damo get to compete with each other once more. And I've got no doubt, Shawn, that you're not going to let him win.
Well, I was going to say, so with this account, so Damo can't go negative? Is that right? Is that the way I understand it?
I think we'll get a fresh sum of money each week. So he might lose his money each and every week, but he'll get a fresh top up for the next week.
Oh, well, that's good for Damo's sake. So I just wanted to confirm that. Damo and I have had some great battles over the years, and I'm sure we'll share some stories throughout the year with that. But hey, you throw a competition with me and Damo, and we're we'll eat it up, and we're looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to being part of it too. So I'm going to just sit in the middle and watch you two go at it. I'll be the moderator because really, who cares what I think? I'll just let you two guys go at it, and I think it's going to be really popular. I'm really looking forward to seeing that take off. So thanks to Tab Touch for joining us here on the show to make that happen. And as we go along, once we get the season started next week, we'll come back and we've got some special announcements to make about a Player of the Week award, which we'll be announcing each and every week, and there'll be some special prizes that will be able to be won by our listeners to go along with that. And we'll be also giving votes towards our Player of the Year award, and we'll be keeping track of that and announcing our Player of the Year come the end of the season. So plenty of new developments here on the show for this season. We'll also continue to bring all of the best interviews like we did last season. So between Shawn Redhage, Damian Martin and myself, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can provide here on 2021. The podcast environment is getting an increasingly competitive one, Shawn. So we need to stay on top of our game, but to have some great partners like we've been able to secure, hopefully it means we're doing something right, and hopefully we can do a lot of good things this year.
Yeah, I think, you only get better with experience, and we've had a full year. I think we had some great shows last year. We're looking forward to just expanding and providing a little bit more this year as well.
Absolutely. So before we have a proper look at how the teams are shaping up for this season, some recent news. We did a show for Christmas, Shawn, as our listeners hopefully tuned in for. If you didn't, you can go back and find that in our archives. But a little bit of news floating around since then. I would hate to be writing the schedules right now for a professional sporting competition anywhere in the world, Shawn, and the NBL's been no different. So the first 5 rounds of the season were originally announced, and now I think they've been completely torn up and thrown in the bin. So then we got the announcement of round 1, and all games for now this weekend are either being played, as we said at the start, in Adelaide starting on Friday night, then in Cairns and Brisbane on Saturday, back in Adelaide on Sunday, and then in Cairns again on Monday. And then for round 2, finally, the Perth Wildcats get to play at home, and some other venues are opened up. But gee, being the person that makes up the fixtures right now would be a thankless task.
It would be a little bit of a nightmare. Just so many scenarios you have to take into account, whether it be governments shutting down borders, new cases, and it could change by the hour. I mean, I was speaking to the NBL on last week, and round 1 was all set. It was a given. Got off the phone, and then found out that the Queensland border had been shut to WA. So it was one of those scenarios where it just anything can happen at any point. And obviously, the NBL is putting in contingency plans all over the place. But you're right, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. I think especially till we get out of this hub. Those first 5 weeks could be a little tough. Hopefully, some of these things will continue to improve here. Victoria and New South Wales, and get a little bit better control on things so that we can kind of open things up a little bit more. You got vaccines coming into play. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen. One thing we do know, the schedule they have currently, probably tentatively planned, isn't going to happen. They're going to have to make adjustments, and it's going to be the team that makes those adjustments and is able to correct and I think also it's going to provide a lot of these guys that may not have as many minutes, because there's going to be a lot of back-to-backs. There's going to be so many different scenarios that are going to be thrown at you that the team that's deeper and has a few more players down at 8th, 9th, and 10th man, I think is going to be a big advantage.
It's a great point, especially once we get into the hub where every team's going to be either playing every back-to-back games every second or third day. You're going to have to go deep into your roster, and I think it's a great point. The deeper you are, the better you're going to be for this season. A bit of other news floating around. You mentioned a couple of teams have announced their leadership or captaincy for this season. You mentioned it before. Jesse Wagstaff named the Perth Wildcats captain, and I'm really happy for him. He's been an incredible servant for 11, going into his 12th season now at the Wildcats since he came back from Metro State College. Decided to come to Perth to start his NBL career, and he's never looked back, and he's played under some great captains, starting with yourself and Brad Robbins, and then under Damian Martin. But he was a long-time vice captain, and very happy for him to at least get this one season where he'll be captain. I think it's richly deserved for someone who's now celebrated winning 6 championships already.
Yeah, you're right. 6 championship has tremendous amount of respect amongst everyone in the club, and especially the team members there. And Mitch Norton being the vice captain as well. So I think you're probably just grooming him for when Jesse does hang up the boots at some point. Hopefully we get a few more years out of him because, he's been unbelievable for the Wildcats. And I think anyone would be lucky to have a guy like that on their team. I think, back in 2009-10 when Rob Redhage brought him here, he's the type of player that Wildcats are looking for. And, to me, he's the epitome of the Wildcats, the sacrifice that he's made over his career. And just, I just love him when he's not on the court, just watching him on the sideline. There is no bigger cheerleader for success on the court than Jesse Wagstaff. So really happy for him, and congratulations on receiving the captaincy.
Yeah, Adelaide 36ers went a different direction with their captaincy. So they haven't officially named a captain. They've named a three-man leadership group. So that's made up of Daniel Johnson, Brendan Tees, and Daniel Dillon. And then one of those on any given night will be the man that takes on the C next to their name. So they'll just rotate it between the three of them. Speaking to Connor Henry, he's looking forward to that because he thinks that at least at any given time he'll have at least one of them on the court. And he just thinks that they'll be able to share the role. Would you prefer to have the one captain, or are you happy with a shared role like that one?
I guess it's a little bit. You need to do this, I guess, according to your personnel. If you don't feel like you have one guy that's going to be the guy, then maybe you do kind of have it by committee. And to me, that kind of says that maybe that's the case in Adelaide. I mean, just looking at their roster, they're pretty young, so they need as many leaders.
They're incredibly young.
They need as many leaders as they can. I feel like Donald Sloan potentially, although he's an import, he does have a lot of experience, so he's going to need to provide a lot of leadership. And, Daniel Johnson, if I'm looking at those guys, he's going to be the one out on the court most of the time and coming down the crunch. So probably he's your main one. And, the other guys are just going to have to support him. But it's going to be, the pretty young lineup, a new coach. There's going to be some growing pains in there, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, the other bit of news, at the Wildcats, how disruptive is it to lose your assistant coach on the eve of a season? Scott Roth now departing the Wildcats to take up the head coaching role for the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. How disruptive is that? And if you're the Wildcats, do you now need to find a replacement for him pretty quickly, and how do you do that in a COVID world?
Yeah, well, I think they're going to have to go more the local route. I think to get someone probably over from the United States is a little bit tough, and with the quarantining and all the things that happened is going to be much harder. And it's something we haven't even talked about with imports and, potentially mid-season changes. That's going to be a lot harder in a COVID scenario as well in the world that we're living in these days. So we'll see how that plays out down the rest of the year, but it's going to be interesting. Congratulations to Scott Roth on to me it kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't sure where Tasmania was going to go. I thought there was some established NBL coaches. I'm not sure if Rob Beveridge put his hand up in there, but I would have thought that they probably might have gone down that route. But I've spent a little bit of time around Scott Roth and talked to him at an occasion, whether it be on the sideline, and been impressed. But he must have done a really good job in the interview process, and maybe Tasmania wanted to go a different route. They wanted a different voice, a different someone that's probably not synonymous with Australia basketball. And sometimes that can give you a little bit of an edge because, teams, when they're preparing for the Jack Jumpers, they don't know what Scott Roth is going to run. I mean, it's just, you could go back and look at some film with some of the other coaches that probably applaud and be able to figure out which route. It's going to be a little bit unknown, and I guess we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, it does put the Wildcats on a little bit of trying to replace a coach this, I guess, an important part of the season so early on in the season as well.
Well, are you a candidate for that assistant coaching role?
Where, at the Perth Wildcats?
Yeah.
No, I'm on the sideline. I just get to listen in on the timeouts. I got the best job in the world.
Well, great segue, because I wanted to move into that. NBL this week also announced the commentary team, and it includes yourself, it includes Damian Martin, and it includes Lockie Reed. Can you give us a little bit of insight on how the commentary is going to work from RAC Arena this season?
Yeah, well, I think it was only natural for them to want to get Damian Martin. Anyone that's interviewed Damo, heard him speak throughout his career, I think there's no one better to kind of jump into that commentary booth. So I'm excited to work beside Damo. My understanding is we'll be kind of splitting some of the games. Lockie Reed will be involved as well. So it's I think he's going to be a natural and do some fantastic stuff. I think on maybe some of the big games we might be working together, which I'll be looking forward to. Usually when that happens, one of us chooses one team and one of us chooses the other team. So it might be a little bit of a battle for who gets to cover the Wildcats, but maybe we can play a little one-on-one to decide which team to cover.
Well, there's a pretty easy solution. Whoever's in front in our tap touch competition gets to choose.
Well, there you go. I would say our Damo and I are in a fantasy league at the moment as well. We're playing against each other, but he's smashing me at the moment.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's early in the week though, Pikey.
You mentioned the one-on-one game too. I have a feeling you would probably comfortably take care of him right now. I don't think he's getting around physically too well. I think you would have him covered, even though you're about to turn 40.
Look, I would never want to go against Damian Martin. Even if the guy is in shape no matter what. I mean, he'll come back in preseason. You'll ask him, "Oh, you been doing much now?" And he'll win the yo-yo, the running. He'll be D'ing you up full court, and you're like, "I thought you said you hadn't been doing a whole lot in the off season." No, I haven't, but he's just always in shape. The guy never gets tired, so I'm not sure I could hang with him these days. Well,
you're selling yourself short, Shawn, because you're out on the court every day still, so I'd still back you in. But we will speak to Damian Martin a little bit later on this show here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle and run through the season predictions from both Shawn and Damo and also get their round one predictions. But when we come back, that's our first segment done for this first show of 2021. We'll have a look team by team and how everyone's shaping up for the upcoming NBL season, and then we'll get to the Tap Touch preview. Okay, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, Shawn, and let's take a look at how the NBL teams are shaping up. We're just days out from the season starting. Well, for most teams, there's a couple of teams, the Perth Wildcats and the New Zealand Breakers, that don't have games in round one, but we'll take a look at how the teams are shaping up here before we get to our predictions, which everybody is looking forward to, especially when we see across the board in some NBL shows, Shawn, that it seems to be a common trend that the Perth Wildcats are going to miss the finals this year. So I can't wait to see what you think of that and what Damo thinks of that a little bit later. But for now, let's start with the Adelaide 36ers. Obviously, a new coach, Connor Henry, someone you're very familiar with. They bring back Daniel Johnson, which is massive. Also, Brendan Tees and Daniel Dillon back as their captains. Jack McVeigh, Alex Madronger are back as well. Josh Giddey on board as the next star. Isaac Humphreys is on board as the big man, as is Keanu Pinder. Sunday Deck, a very good signing, a big signing, one of the most sought after free agents. And then their imports, Donald Sloan and Tony Crocker. I think we all expected their imports to leave after the way last season ended. So there's no Jerome Randall, Ramon Moore, or Eric Griffin coming back. Obi Shea decided to retire. Anthony Dremick, Harry Froling gone to Brisbane. Kevin White now with the Perth Wildcats. What do you think of that 36ers squad?
Well, I think it's going to be solid, and I think it's all going to come down to Donald Sloan. I think he really is going to have to be kind of that lightning rod for them and really needs to probably score a lot of points. You know what you're going to get from Daniel Johnson and the rest of the guys. I think Jack McVeigh could really step up, have a big year. I like the energy that he plays with. And Josh Giddey is an exciting prospect. So, but it's always tough to give your point guard spot to a young guy like that. So, there's going to be some games where they're really going to need to count on Donald Sloan and Daniel Johnson to really carry them at times. And, obviously Connor Henry, he's had a lot of success over in America. So I'm excited also to see kind of his growth as a coach, and can he bring that back and bring some success to the Adelaide 36ers. I will say that the Adelaide 36ers, I think the thing they have going for them is it looks like they're going to get to play a lot of home games, especially early on in the season. So even though they might be young, sometimes you can get on a little bit of a roll just by being able to have a crowd in their stadium, playing at home where all these other teams are going to have to be on the road. So I think
75% capacity at the entertainment centre. So that's pretty much 7,000 people they're going to be able to have there, which is a big plus on the rest of the country right now.
Yeah, I think so. So I think early on in the year they're going to have a big advantage, and they're going to need to take full reign of that and see if they can get a number of wins. It's going to be tough for them being so young to win on the road, but if they can get some home wins, then they can really set their season up.
I agree. Brisbane Bullets. To me, it's going to be fascinating just to see if they can replace Lamar Patterson. So their new imports are Vic Law and Orlando Johnson. I think Vic Law's the guy that'll play the role of Lamar Patterson. So a lot will depend on how he goes in that. But they've got Nathan Sobey, Jason Kadee, Matt Hodgson coming back. They've got Anthony Drimmick and Harry Froling on board from Adelaide. Tamuri Wigness getting his first crack in the NBL, and Tanner Krebs, pretty high thoughts on him coming in. Cam Glidden has moved on. Will Magnay's now in the NBA. Mika Vakona's not in the league at all right now. Ruben Tarangi's gone to the Phoenix. What do you think of the Bullets?
Yeah, I think the Bullets are a nice team. I don't see a championship contender in there, but and we talked about this before the show, that the teams seem to be a little bit smaller this year. But, I mean, you look at that team, they got Harry Froling, Matt Hodgson. So can they utilize that height? And then, what type of year is Sobey and Kadee going to have? They're capable players, and we've seen, but can they on a consistent basis really dominate? I think Sobey's capable of it. I'll be excited to see where Vic Law, I think they're going to, it's going to come down to how well he can really replace Lamar Patterson to get them into the top four. But I don't see them making the top four where they're at currently. They may need to make some changes down the track if things aren't going their way early.
Yeah, I think losing Will Magnay late was a big blow to them, because they were relying on having that huge front court of him and Matt Hodgson, but that now won't eventuate. Cairns Taipans, they were a hell of a story a season ago. They've been able to bring back both Scott Machado and Cam Oliver, which is huge, but they're always going to have to lose one of their imports. So the one that they lose is DJ Newell, but they've been able to add a next star in Mojave King, who I think they expect big things from, and potentially Koat Noi to have a much better season than the one that was kind of halted by injury a little bit last season. And aside from that, it's pretty much the same team. Still got Nate Jawai, Jared Kenny, George Blagajevic, Mirko Jeric, Fabian Krislovic, and Majuk Deng. Basically, it's the same team. You just take out Newell and you add Jordan Artai and Mojave King.
Yeah, I really like the Cairns Taipans. We talk about having success in this league and be able to build on some things. To be able to bring the caliber of Machado back and Oliver is pretty exciting if you're a Cairns fan. So I expect big things from them. I think losing DJ Newell will be tough. I thought he was, obviously that was his best season, but I think Machado was a big reason. I think he's just one of those guys that makes other guys better. And, Jarek had a great year. Koat Noi, I think he's going to have a big year again. And Dang, I think, he potentially could, step up his game if he can, kind of get that shooting role next to Cam Oliver, make them dynamic combo.
Absolutely. Now, the Hawks. I assume we have to stand by not adding Illawarra to their name because their membership base didn't earn their name back, so we'll continue to call them the Hawks. Obviously, Brian Goorjian on board is a massive plus. And it's a very much a new look team as a result. So there's only Sam Froling, Emmett Nah, and new captain AJ Ogilvy coming back. 2 new imports, Tyler Harvey, Justin Simon. They've got a next star in Justinian Jessup. And then there's a whole bunch of new faces. Deng Adele, Cam Bairstow, Isaac White, Max Darling, and Deng Deng. Lost some experience. Obviously, Tim Conrad, Todd Blanchfield moving on. No Josh Boone coming back. Lost Sunday Deck. No Dave Anderson. And Gus Glover's gone to the Kings. Totally new look team, but any team coached by Brian Goorjian, you have to take seriously.
Yeah, he just finds a way to get it done in the NBL. And, I think this season they're probably looking at as figuring out the guys they want. Always tough to come in straight away and kind of clean house. They have done to some degree. There's not a whole lot that's returning. And but their imports look pretty exciting. I mean, that Justinian Jessup, he can really shoot the basketball. And we have a caliber of Brian Goorjian that knows how to win and knows how to get the guys in the right spot. I wouldn't discount them. I think that there's a good chance that they could sneak into that top 4. I don't think, depending on how well their imports play. And I had a chance to play for Goorjian in the Olympics, and tremendous amount of respect for the teams that going up against him, and I just can't discount him and what he's going to be able to do. He's going to have those guys working hard and being ready come this season. And look like a guy like Cam Bairstow, who was in the NBA a few years ago, but a guy under the discipline that Brian Goorjian demands, he could be really thriving if he can stay healthy.
Absolutely, I still think he's got plenty left to offer. Melbourne United, I think, so far it seemed like they're the unanimous pick by most people as the championships. Tab Touch has them as the championship favourites coming into the season, and that's with 1 import still left up their sleeve. So they've still got Chris Golding, Mitch McCarron, Dave Barlow, Joe Lual, Achul, Sam McDaniel, and Shea Illy coming back. They've added Jock Landale, Scotty Hobson, Yade Barber, who in the preseason game I saw, he's a young Japanese player. He looked really exciting. And also Jack White coming back from college. Departures, Sean Long and Mallow Trimble, they never really quite fit in the system at Melbourne last season. Alex Pledger, there's no room in the league for him at the moment. And then a couple of other outs there. But on paper, it looks a pretty strong team.
Yeah, I think they're the favourites. Anyone that you talk to will say that. And the fact that they got Jock Landale, probably one of the biggest signings outside of Andrew Bogut over the last couple of years, and maybe LaMelo Ball in there next to Bogut. But, just the capability of him, I think he's an exciting player. And he's going to be a tough matchup for a lot of 4-5s in this league, the way he can shoot the ball and rebound and put the ball on the floor. So, and Scotty Hobson, we know what he's capable of. And I like the mix. David Barlow, a guy that just knows how to get it done, a winner. Jack White, guy just plays hard, plays defense. Mitch McCarron will do all the dirty work. So, I think Melbourne United has put together a good team. They just got to make sure they stay healthy and find that chemistry as well. It can always be tough when you got guys that know how to score. Can they find each other to get each other good shots and not just themselves?
Yep, absolutely. The New Zealand Breakers, they're the hard luck story of this season, because to take part in the league, they had to make the commitment to move away from home potentially for the whole season. So they've already been out of home for 6 weeks now almost. They originally were based in Melbourne. They've then had to move down to Tasmania, and they're going to have to do it tough for this whole season. But the positive is they've assembled a really good looking roster. So when Corey Webster's back healthy, he's going to be back. So is Tom Abercrombie, Finn Delaney, Jared Weeks, and Rob Lowe. Massive addition with getting Lamar Patterson across from the Bullets. Ty Webster, Corey's brother, he's a tremendous point guard. Colton Iverson is their big man import. Daniel Trist on board as well, along with Rasmus Back, who fills out their roster. some big losses from last year. Obviously, Hobson's the standout. RJ Hampton didn't end up probably having a massive impact on that team, and Brandon Ashley and Sek Henry as their other two imports were hit and miss. On paper, it's a great-looking squad, but how do you handle being away from home for that long is the big question I have over them.
Yeah, I mean, I just know road trips that I was on 7, 8, 9 days, and by the end of it, you're sick of living in a hotel, living out of a suitcase. I can't imagine what it could be. You know, they're sitting at 6 weeks now, 2 different homes, and now come this season, it could be all season. So, you know, if the New Zealand Breakers make the top 4, which a lot of the experts are predicting, I think it's a massive achievement, just knowing that they're not going to have a home game potentially for the whole season. But if you look at that roster, I mean, Corey Webster can win games on his back. Lamar Patterson can. And, you know, I don't know a whole lot about Colton Iverson. We'll find out after a few games. But you got to think if they're healthy, it's going to be a talented roster to beat. I just think it's going to be tough to, you know, we talk about winning games in this league is tough enough, but not being able to have one potential home game all season, I don't, as tough as this league as this is and how many good players we have, it's going to be a massive uphill battle for the Breakers, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a talent issue. It's just it's a human nature issue. Like you, I just don't think I could handle living out of a hotel for that amount of time. Now the Perth Wildcats, I think this is what everyone's going to be tuned in for to get your thoughts on, Shawn. I think, you know, coming off the championship and you stack up the two rosters, and I think clearly there's less talent in this season's team. If you quite simply have a look at the departures, and it's Nick Kay, Tariko White, Damian Martin, Miles Plumley, Reece Fagan, now also Majuk, who's out injured for the season. And you add the additions, and it's Todd Blanchfield, John Mooney, Kevin White, and Jared Bairstow. Clearly it's not the ins aren't as talented as the outs, but you bring back Bryce Cotton, Mitch Norton's back. You got a couple of young players in Luke Travers and Wani Swaka-Lobaluk who have the potential to do big things. Jesse Wagstaff, Clint Steindl back as well. Might not be as talented, but you've still got Bryce Cotton and you've still got a pretty good core.
Yeah, you still got a core there. You know, Jesse Wagstaff has been there for a long time. Mitch Norton feels like he's been around the league for a long time, even though he's still quite young in age-wise. But, you know, any team that has Bryce Cotton, who I think is the best player in the league, you're going to give them a chance. To me, the departure of Nick Kay is going to be tough. I think John Mooney is a good player, but, you know, they do look a little small, and I think they're just waiting potentially on Bryce Cotton getting his citizenship, and then they can go get a 5, potentially Miles Plumley, who my understanding is still in the country in Brisbane. So they'll probably be in touch with him if Bryce Cotton gets his citizenship. I don't know. You know, Australia Day's coming up pretty quickly, so we'll see a lot of citizenships happening around that time of year, and you know, the Wildcats will be pushing for that. But I still think they're going to be in the top 4 just by the fact they've got, you know, a solid core and they've got Bryce Cotton.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the start, until I see the Wildcats ever miss the finals, I just can't ever do a prediction where I have them making the finals, because they've done it for 34 years straight. It's just incredible. The Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, kind of similar to any team that has Bryce Cotton. Any team that has Mitch Creek will naturally be pretty competitive. They've still got Adam Gibson coming back, Kyle Adnams coming back, and so is Kendall Stevens. The big one for me is Dane Pinot. He had a breakout season last year, cemented himself as one of the best centres in the league, but he's going to miss the first at least month or 6 weeks of the season with a back injury, and I think that could be a potentially devastating blow for the Phoenix. They have added Cam Glidden. Their imports are Kiefer Sykes and Ben Moore. Ruben Tarangi, I think, hopefully we see him get back to the form he had 2 years ago up in Brisbane. Yanni Wetzel's another player with good potential. John Roberson will be tough to replace. Outside of that, and Ty Wesley's the other big loss there. But, yeah, I mean, Mitch Creek will make them competitive, but whether or not that makes them a finals contender, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I love Mitch Creek. I think what he brings to the team is, he does things that no other player in the league can do from that 3-4 spot, and just the toughness and passion that he plays with. I really like Cam Glidden as well. I think, getting out of Brisbane and him in Tarangi, it could kind of rejuvenate them a little bit, a new change of scenery. And but it's probably going to come down to their imports as well. Can they really, dominate in ways that they need to? I thought John Roberson, first half of the season, he was outstanding. Yep. So, losing him is a tough one. But, yeah, I think you're right as well, Pinot. Having him go out so early in the year, they're they're behind the back foot. But I think Southeast Melbourne Phoenix are always going to give themselves a shot when you got Mitch Creek and Cam Glidden. They're kind of holding the fort, being good leaders and playing hard and be able to play both sides of the basketball. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, lastly, the Sydney Kings. Obviously, grand finalists from a year ago. Some big losses: Andrew Bogut and Kevin Lish, Jayshawn Tate, who we now see playing a really big role at the Houston Rockets, which is fantastic to see. It's great for the NBL to see somebody so easily being able to make that transition. Lucas Walker's also, I think he's retired. If not, he looks unlikely to get another role in the NBL. Some really good returnees for them: Casper Ware, Brad Newley, Sean Bruce, Craig Moller, Daniel Kickett, Jordan Hunter, and Didi Lozada for his second year as a next star. Their imports, Dejan Vasiljevic looks like he's a terrific shooter. Gerald Martin as their big man. Angus Glover will play a handy role coming across from the Hawks. Xavier Cook's going down injured hurts them in the short term. They've added Tom Verdanovic from New Zealand as a injury replacement. That sounds like a team still with enough talent and experience to be around the mark.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to live and die by the three-point shot. If they're knocking down Casper Ware, Vasiljevic, Kickett, those guys, if they can knock down, and Didi Lozada, you got 4 great three-point shooters. If they're knocking it down, they're going to be able to beat anybody. But, losing Bogut, Tate, Lish, those were 3 of the better players at their position in the league. So it's going to be a tough one. And obviously Adam Ford coming in, his first year in the helm is, will be interesting to see how he handles the league and kind of what structure he runs with that team. But, he's been around the league long enough to know what works, what doesn't. And, I think he'll have them competitive. But as we see, they're going to have to be playing on the road the first part of the season. So not great when you're trying to add so many new pieces and also learn a new system. I think that's could be hard to get off to a great start. And also losing Xavier Cooks, who kind of is that glue guy to that team.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so that's how the teams are looking, Sean. So enjoyed your analysis there. Hopefully everybody else did. Now, when we come back here on Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, we'll be joined by Damian Martin, and we'll do our season predictions thanks to Tab Touch, and then have a look at the matches in round 1, and we'll give you our thoughts on those as well. Okay, Sean, it's now time for our season predictions segment, brought to you by Tab Touch. So if you want to know all of your odds and all of the betting markets, just head to tabtouch.com.au. You can have a look at the championship odds right now, which I'll talk about in a minute. But once we get to our preview of round 1, not only does Tab Touch have you covered in terms of head-to-head betting for the games in round 1, but all of the betting markets you can hope for. So under the main markets, you can do line betting, game totals, margin betting, and of course the head-to-head betting. But there's all sorts of other options: doubles, margins, quarter-by-quarter betting, odds or evens, any type of market you can imagine for an NBL game. Tab Touch will have you covered. So head to tabtouch.com.au to check that out, because as this season progresses, as we've talked about, Shawn Redhage and Damian Martin, the Perth Wildcats legends, they'll be given $50 to bet each and every week It'll be dedicated to charity come the end of the season, but they'll be utilising these Tab Touch markets to put together their bets of the week. So check that out at tabtouch.com.au. But for now, Shawn, let's get Damian Martin on the line, and let's put our necks on the line for some season predictions. Okay, Shawn, we're now into our season predictions segment here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle for this week. Thanks to Tab Touch for making it possible. We've got Damian Martin on the line. Now, before we get into your predictions for the season, Damo, there's a bit of news floating around that revolves around you. Firstly, your replacement as Wildcats captain being Jesse Wagstaff. You happy with that?
Yeah, over the moon. Jesse's been a part of the leadership team for a long time now, and then obviously been vice captain himself for a number of years. So to see him get the nod, and I love that it is player voted. So, it's one thing to be, named captain, but to know that's come from, your peers and your teammates, obviously respect not only the way you conduct yourself on a day-by-day basis, but, know that you can be a great leader and a captain. He's a quiet guy. He does his job. He's always embraced his role. And now that his role's changed a little bit with the C next to his name, I think he's going to do a great job.
And you're also joining Shawn on the NBL commentary team. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. He was actually one of the first people I reached out to, just like, hey, can we get together and ask a lot of questions to know what I'm doing? So Shawn's been doing a great job, and to finally be teammates again, albeit just commentating from the sidelines instead of on the court itself, is something I'm looking forward to. And
just quickly, the foundation that you're closely involved with, been reported that there's a chance they're going to end up buying the Perth Wildcats. So in a strange way, you might be part of an ownership team at the Wildcats, which would be quite interesting.
Look, I won't reveal what I've earned at the Wildcats over a number of years, but unfortunately there'll be no ownership with D Martin next to it. But look, I'm biased. Obviously, I think the Wildcats are the best sporting club in Australia. So whoever gets to call themselves owner, Jack Bennett's been amazing and will continue to be amazing.
Now, before we get to our season predictions, Shawn, have you got anything quickly for Damo?
Well, look, I'm excited to be on the sideline with him. It's it's a little bit of a different feel, but the best seat in the house. And welcome to the commentary team, the retired guys who now just get to be big fans on TV. Sounds good to me. I'm glad that I'll be holding a microphone instead of a basketball, because I went for my first run in a while not so long ago, and I was sweating way too quickly, out of breath, and hurting for about 4 days. So I definitely don't regret the decision to hang up the boots.
Well, when you finish commentating, you're definitely not as sore. You still got that adrenaline and the emotion. So I think you're gonna do great stuff, and I'm excited to see how the season goes and have you on the sideline with me.
Great. Thanks, mate. Looking forward to it.
Now, I'm looking forward to having you both on board here with me on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle as well. And it's going to get competitive because I know that neither of you guys like to lose. So when we're looking at our season predictions, let's start with who you think's going to win the championship for this NBL season. And before I get your predictions, the current odds, thanks to Tab Touch, they have Melbourne United at $3.20, the Cairns Taipans $3.70, New Zealand Breakers $5, the Sydney Kings $10, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix $10, and the defending champions, the Perth Wildcats, are way out at $10. The Hawks are $17. The Brisbane Bullets $19. The Adelaide 36ers $26. Let's go with you, Shawn. Who is going to win the championship?
Well, I think if you talk to all the experts out there, they're going to look at Melbourne United's team. It's been pretty star-stacked. I don't think you can go outside of them being the favorites at the moment, but as we've seen, you just never know until everyone steps out on the court. Can all five guys play together and play at a championship level? You look at a lot of those teams. I don't think you can take them out of contention, especially not the Perth Wildcats, even though they're sitting at $10. So there's some good, I guess, bets there to be had, but I think you've got to go with Melbourne United just with the talented roster that they've put together.
What do you think, Damo?
Yeah, on paper, I think what they've done in the off-season, Melbourne have done in the off-season is incredible. on paper, they look amazing. They've got a fantastic coach. They're going to be tough to beat. I think New Zealand are the sleepers. I like the roster they put together. They've got a nice mixture of, kind of some experienced players in Tom Abercrombie and Corey Webster, and now Corey, in the backcourt with his younger brother.
Yeah.
They're going to be fun to watch. And then Cairns, Cairns being able to bring back, their star-started lineup from last year, minus, one or two players. I think Cairns are going to be great. But look, you've got to go through the champs. They've won back-to-back. I'm going to back Perth. Shawn, you may agree or disagree with this, but of the, 6 championships I was, lucky to be a part of, I only honestly believe once were we the best team on paper, and that was the year you and I got to call James Ennis a teammate. The other 5 were intangibles, what's above his shoulder. So if you can make it into the postseason, it's the mental toughness, the resilience, the confidence, the belief, the discipline that ends up finishing in a championship trophy. So if the Wildcats can get to the postseason, I'm certainly backing them to win another championship. And any team that has Bryce Cotton on it is going to be hard to beat. And then you combine that with, Toddy Blanchard, who they've brought in, which I think will be fantastic. Kev White's mental toughness, defense. And then Nordo's been elevated to vice captain. He'll be starting point guard and will do a hell of a job.
And I think you get on now.
Yeah,
$10 is a juicy offer.
Yeah, I think so. My concern is just, this isn't going to be a normal season. And I think it's going to be hard for potentially get all the home games in the way things have shaped up over the last few months. And the fact that Melbourne United's going to have basically home games. They know they got 8-9 games in the hub coming up, and they've got a star-studded lineup. I think that really holds them in good stead early on in the season, and you just never know what's going to happen later in the season. So I just kind of think that at this point, the schedule is shaping up to favor them. And New Zealand Breakers, I think on paper as well, they're pretty star-studded, but I'm just not sure that they're going to be able to get enough wins away from home. You and I know, Damo, that 8-9 days in a hotel and you start going stir crazy. Imagine a full season being away. I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's incredible what New Zealand in particular have already done. They've been calling Australia home for a number of weeks already, and we haven't even tipped off yet. So the longer the season goes on, I think you're either going to see that New Zealand have the best chemistry in the league because of the extra adversity they're going to have to go through, or they could self-implode because of the frustrations, living out of a bag, living away from home. Some of these guys have wives and kids. That does take a toll. I know a lot of sports have done the exact same thing. But at the end of the day, it could come down to the NBL is full of skills. Like we may have mentioned a few teams, but teams 1 through 9 are packed with talent. It might come down to the most mentally resilient, mentally toughest team ends up holding up the championship trophy at the end of the year because of what they're going to go through with all the COVID restrictions and playing a lot of games away from home.
Absolutely. So, Shawn, you've gone Melbourne United. Damo, you've gone the Wildcats. I don't have to try to raise money for my charity, so I don't have the same pressure on me as you two. But if I had to tip, I'd go the Cairns Taipans. I think they're a real good chance based on what they did last year and being able to bring back most of that group. But I think most people have tuned in to hear what you guys think. So let's keep moving. Your top 4, obviously, Shawn, you've got Melbourne United in there. Who rounds out your top 4?
So I'm going to go Melbourne United, the Cairns Taipans. I think, they're a great shot at the fact that they've been able to bring those guys, such important pieces back is going to be huge for them. Throw in the Wildcats. You can't discount them. And then I'm going to throw in the Hawks, just with the Brian Gorgon factor. He's never missed out on a semifinal in the NBL. So just like people can't discount the Wildcats making the finals, I don't think you can discount Brian Gorgon getting his team up into that top 4.
Yeah, okay. Damo?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's, as a player, you know that you can't take a lot on any team, but there's always people that come out the season just expect that if you're first on the ladder, you're going to destroy ninth on the ladder. I love the young talent that, like you said, the Hawks have. Adelaide, I think Sunday Dex is up for a huge season. They're going to be young, fun, and exciting. But I think that the top 4, Dobie is going to be first team All-NBL or second team. He's ready for a huge season at Brisbane. But look, I've got to go with the Wildcats, as I mentioned earlier. Melbourne, I've said. I think Cairns are going to be even better coming second year round, with some of the imports that dominated last year, first team All-NBL. And then that fourth spot, Sydney, I love that they brought in DJ Vasiljevic. I think the impact of losing Bogut is huge. He is not only a physical presence and, probably Basketball Australia's greatest all-time player, but his leadership as well. And then Kevin Lish, who was the captain, Kev's still going to be on the sideline as assistant coach. But I think losing those two hurt. So it's going to really rely heavily on, Brad Newell and Daniel Pickett to take that leadership role. That fourth spot is up for grabs. I'll go with, I know I'm sitting on the fence here, but I'll go with Perth, Melbourne, Cairns. And I will throw New Zealand in, like I mentioned earlier, but I would not be surprised if I'm completely wrong, and I'll put my hand up to acknowledge that.
No, I actually agree. I think Melbourne, Cairns, and the Wildcats, I think, were easy, and then it's really tough to pick your fourth team, and I think Sydney, just for their experience, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if any of those contending teams sneak into that fourth spot. I'd be very surprised if you don't both agree on this next one. Who have you got for MVP, Shawn?
Look, I think, and hear me out here, I obviously think Bryce Cotton is the best player, but I think sometimes with these awards, it can kind of, you get bored. And I know, Damian Martin, you're a six-time NBL defensive MVP, but you were so much better than anyone else, so you really couldn't vote for anyone other than yourself in the Defensive Player of the Year category. But I think people might get a little tired of Bryce Cotton winning everything, and so I'm going to go with Machado as my MVP. Always like to go with a team that's winning as well, and I just think he's the type of player that just makes everyone else around him. So Machado's going to be my MVP.
Well, he did it was pretty close last year, wasn't he? He only missed by a couple of votes behind Bryce.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and he is a great player. I haven't had to guard him several times, in particular during the finals. What he did in Game 2 in the finals was incredible. A guy that you didn't treat as a non-shooter, far from it, but you treated him more as a driver, someone that could facilitate and find the open man because his passing is possibly the best in the league. But Machado was brilliant. Look, Bryce is, in my opinion, the most talented player in the league. He's special. He's kind of a once in a 10-year type of player in the NBL. So he's going to go down as an all-time great. If he can win another MVP, I think you have to hold him up there with a top 5 player of all time. So I'm going to back Bryce again, just because I'm fortunate enough to see what he does every day, and he doesn't take days off. So he's going to continue to get better. He's not just someone that cruises through Monday through Thursday and shows up on a Friday. He works hard. It's actually the training staff, the coaches that have to, pull him away from training and say, mate, we're going to need you for 36 minutes on Friday. We've got to force you to take a break. And they may force him for a few minutes, but as soon as it comes down to winning time during scrimmages, he subs himself back on. So he's going to be even better again because of his work ethic and the fact that he's only coming into his prime years as a player.
Yeah, he really is.
It's incredible to be able to say that because we've seen some special things from him already, but he really is coming into those prime years. We've got Jock Landale. There's all these players that are out there. Chris Goulding, Nathan Sobey, who I mentioned earlier, Mitch Creek. You go through every team, and there's one or two guys that can put their hand up and say, "I'm going to dominate this year," and you won't be surprised if they do. But I'll stick with my guy Bryce.
Yeah, I think Bryce as well. Leading scorer, not necessarily the same as the MVP, Shawn. So, who do you think might lead the league in scoring?
Look, there's a lot of candidates, and I'm going to go with a guy that I think they're going to rely on a lot, and I'm going to go with Lamar Patterson as the leading scorer. I think he went over to Puerto Rico over in the off season, did some outstanding work there, got his team to the grand final over there. So I think he's been playing games where a lot of guys haven't been for a number of months. So I think he's going to come in and be ready to go, and I think Lamar Patterson as my leading scorer.
What do you think, Damo?
Yeah, I look at the rosters teams have this year, and you put some players on different teams, and they're going to be their go-to guy, and need to score 28 or 30. And there's a few guys that are capable of doing that. Chris Goulding can light it up. I expect Jock to do big things, but the reality is they're both on the same team with other scorers.
With Hobson
so
too.
Not going to be relied upon night in, night out. So I think you're right. I think the leading scorer this year, you're going to see Bryce's name right up there again because obviously, there's no more Tarico White there, but they did bring in Blanchfield who can score. Quinn Steindl's a hell of a shooter. He can score. But they're going to miss, Tarico and Patches, so Bryce will be relied upon heavily again. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if it comes out of an Adelaide or an Illawarra lineup. Who it's going to be, I'm not sure, but I could see someone kind of taking us by surprise because Bryce is going to get double team, triple team. Lamar has proven that he's one of the best players in the league, so I've got a feeling that teams have scouted them. They'll try and stop them to an extent. They'll still drop 20, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't surprise me if it comes from someone out of Illawarra, Adelaide on a consistent basis, dropping 20, or someone like I said. I really do think Sobey's in for a big year, and Mitch Creek. Mitch Creek's a stud, but the more he develops his 3-point game, the harder he continues to get as a player to defend. So I'm going to put Mitch Creek, Sobey as the sleepers outside of Bryce. Winning what will be third leading scoring chance.
I'm going to go Donald Sloan from Adelaide. I think they'll rely heavily on him, and I think he's capable of putting up some big numbers. What about Rookie of the Year? Now that this includes the next star players, we've got some pretty exciting candidates, Shawn.
Yeah, there is some good, really good candidates out there, and I think that probably lends to that next star. But someone who actually came and worked out with the Wildcats when we were there, and just a flat-out shooter. And I think when you can put the ball on the floor or in the hole from anywhere on the court and just have this unbelievable confidence about yourself, I'm going to go with Vasiljevic as the Rookie of the Year. I just think he just plays with a confidence and savviness that the Sydney Kings and Adam Ford are going to like.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate agreeing with Shawn, and I didn't know you were coming up with this answer. I agree. I honestly think this might be the best rookie class we've had in a long, long time. There is some superstars that are coming back from college, first year in the NBL, and they're going to go on to have huge careers here in Australia if they continue to call the NBL home. But yeah, we got to see DJ a few years ago, and he's one of those guys that won't take time to back himself to do well in the league. He's going to come out with Kevlish having retired. I see him starting in that shooting guard position, and he can flat out put the ball in the hole from beyond the arc, and will back himself to do it. So I'm backing DJ as well, even though, like I said, this might be the strongest rookie class we've had, in 5 to 10 years.
I think Justinian Jessup as well. Justinian Jessup is, we saw him early on in the preseason over here, and I really like him. And once again, another shooter. I think anytime you can put the ball on the floor or on the hole and be able to score from anywhere, it just gives coach confidence to put you out there and give you the minutes to earn your Rookie of the Year award.
Yeah, and you've got Mojave King up in Cairns as well, and my tip, Josh Giddey at Adelaide, he's going to be the starting point guard, and I expect some good things from him. Now, I'll go to you, Damo, first for this one.
He's cool, calm, and collected in that point guard. That's probably the hardest position to play as a rookie. But I'm going off preseason games, but I thought he was fantastic.
Yeah.
So initially, that's what I thought Shawn was going to go with. So I thought I'll go DJ, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see Giddey up there as well. White out of Melbourne, but there's just a lot of talent that's going to have to earn his minutes. But yeah, between Giddey and DJ, you're going to see a lot of minutes come their way, and they're not going to disappoint.
Now, Damo, I'll go to you for this one. The Damian Martin Best Defensive Player. Who do you reckon?
I think it's going to go to Sunday Detch out of Adelaide.
Yeah, good call.
He was fantastic last year in Illawarra, and obviously there was a few injuries that shifted him into the starting lineup. Not only was he showing that he could put points on the board, but he is an elite defender. He'll be tasked with guarding the opposition's best perimeter player night in, night out. And, you just look at the amount of professionalism he has off the court. His diet, his stretching, his routine. He does visualization, sports psychology. Like, that guy is a pro, and he prides himself at the defensive end in particular. He's got the athleticism and speed to boot. So I think Sunday is going to have another great year at the defensive end. He will play plenty of minutes, and opposition point guards, shooting guards, small forwards are going to dread coming into Adelaide and having him guard.
Shawn?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good candidates there. I always like Cam Glidden as a defender, and I think Sunday Detch. I don't think those guys will win it, but I guess for me, probably Cam Oliver is to be able to rebound, can protect the basket, just in the athleticism that he shows. I think he's due to win that award this year. He's my favorite.
I wasn't at my most athletic last season. I'll be the first to admit that. But even still, he was throwing my stuff out a few times. I thought, yeah, there's a floater, and I definitely wasn't shooting it high enough or jumping high enough to get it over him. So, yeah, having dribbled into the key a few times and tried shooting over him, he is a specimen and a great defender and rim protector. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see him up there either.
Yeah, he's the one that stood out to me as well. And if it wasn't for DJ Newell last year, he might have won it even last year. I thought he was terrific. So I'll go for him as well. Now, this one's a tricky one because we don't really know who's eligible for this category until, I guess, we see the season unfold and actually who is stepping up. But is there somebody you're expecting to stand out as the most improved player, Shawn?
I think someone who's probably at that next stage of kind of taking that leap in their game might be a Jack McVeigh.
Yep.
You know, I thought he made big strides last year, but I think he's ready for a big breakout year. And you know, I like how hard he plays and the passion he plays with. I think, you know, he knows what gets him going. He seems to get excited no matter what play he makes out there on the court. But as a fan, you love it. And I just see that, you know, he loves playing the game, getting the crowd in. So I think when he makes those big plays, and I think it's going to help his chances in most improved.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because, like you said, it's probably the toughest to pick in the preseason polls because you have no idea what they've been doing in the off-season. Look, I think someone, like a Drimic with a fresh start, you know, he shows that he can score and he's passionate and he wants to win. He wants to do whatever it takes to win. So, you know, someone like a Drimic coming into those, you know, third, fourth, fifth year into the league, he's established himself now. Now he's given a new opportunity, a fresh start at a new club, and I think he's going to deliver. So that's kind of the mould I'll be looking at. I mentioned Sunday previously. He was, you know, right there last season to get most improved. Now I believe he'll have a starting position or play big minutes. I don't think he's going to disappoint. And, you know, like I said, I've picked him to be Defensive Player of the Year, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's averaging over 10 at the other end of the game, other end of the court.
I'm going to go Harry Froling. Similar to you, Damo. I think he'll benefit from the fresh start, and I think we'll see some big things from him at Brisbane. Now, last one. Coach of the Year. What do you think, Shawn?
You know, it's an interesting one. I think I'm going to go with Brian Goorjian just because I picked the Hawks to get into the top four. And if he takes that team into a top four finish, I think, you know, where the Hawks have been the last few years to get them into the finals, I'm going to go with Goorjian. But, you know, it's going to be whoever can probably, you know, we talk about outside of Melbourne, Perth, and Cairns, whoever gets that fourth spot, I think will get Coach of the Year because they've been able to elevate a team that, you know, people weren't sure of into a finals contention.
Yeah, it is one of those ones that if we are correct, and like I said, it's highly likely that we aren't, but if the top three in any order is going to be Melbourne, Perth, and Cairns, you know, sneaking into that fourth is going to be tough. You've got Adam Ford, who's a rookie head coach after losing Andrew Bogut, you know, best player of all time for Australia, and then Kevin Lish, one of the all-time greats. You know, if they can get the most out of their young talent and the older guys returning. But now look at someone like Southeast Melbourne, who we've barely mentioned. You know, the first year as a new franchise, I believe there's a lot of pressure on you to establish a team in the culture of the community. Now, they're going into year two. Hopefully, a lot of that's already been done. Obviously, there's COVID restrictions, so they're not spending as much time in shopping centres, in school, so on and so forth. And it's going to be all about the basketball. So you get a great leader in Gibbo, Mitch Creek, going to be there. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, Scott coming into his second year as head coach, you know, it's amazing what just having that little bit of experience underneath can do to you know, roll you into round two or season two as a coach. So if they can sneak in the fourth, I think you'll see it going Southeast Melbourne's way. But poor old Trevor Gleeson, he's won 5 championships in Perth, hasn't won Coach of the Year at all. Yep. If they do win a three-peat, I've got to stick to what I said earlier. If they do win a three-peat, surely for his 6th championship, he can win a Coach of the Year award. But we'll see how we go.
He's been stiff, no doubt. Okay, that's our season predictions done, guys. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. We'll put it up on our social media channels so we can be held to account as the season unfolds. Let's take a deep breath quickly and then we'll come back and have a look at the matches in round one and then we'll wrap up the show. Okay, guys, back here with our preview now for round 1 of the NBL season thanks to Tab Touch. It all gets underway Friday night, Adelaide Entertainment Centre. The Adelaide 36ers against Melbourne United. Thanks to Tab Touch, the 36ers are paying $2.90. Melbourne, the favourites at $1.40. Sean?
Well, I'm going Melbourne United on that one, although Adelaide 36ers playing at home could be a spoiler.
Yeah, Melbourne for me as well. I want to see what they can do together with the roster they've established. Adelaide are going to play hard. They'll pick up full court. They'll run at the other end. They're going to be fun to watch. I'll go with Melbourne for round 1.
Okay, Saturday, doubleheader, starts in Brisbane. Brisbane Bullets against the Hawks. The Bullets, thanks to Tab Touch, $1.60. The Hawks, $2.35.
I'm going the Bullets in that one, just being at home, and I think the Hawks are a new club, so it's going to take some time to find their feet. I guess not a new club, but new coach and whole new roster as well.
Yeah, exactly for the same reasons as Sean. I'll go with the Bullets.
Now, up in Cairns, the Cairns Taipans, $1.39 favourites against the Sydney Kings, $3.
Taipans, it's just a tough place to play, and they've got their core group back.
Yeah, Cairns toughest to beat in home, probably of any other team. So we'll go with Cairns trying to establish themselves as a front runner for the year this year.
Now, Sunday, Adelaide Entertainment Centre again. Tab Touch can't split them. Adelaide 36ers, Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, $1.90 a piece.
Well, look, we know Mitch Creek loves to come back and play well against his ex-club, the 36ers. So I'm going to go with the Phoenix against the 36ers at home.
Just so I can not agree with everything, I'm going to go with Adelaide, but Creek to drop 30.
Now, last game of the round, Monday night, up in Cairns again. The Cairns Taipans, very short, $1.34 against the Hawks, $3.30.
Yeah, Taipans at home. I think, being able to play home games early on this season can be a huge advantage.
Yeah, it is. Cairns, like I said, they're tough to beat up there. If they can rattle off one win in the first round, they're going to feel confident going into game 2. And if they lose that opening one, then they're going to be able to win a point to prove. So it's tough for Illawarra going up there because Cairns have a lot riding on it with 2 home games to start.
Very good. There we go. That's round 1. So if you rate the opinions of Shawn Redhage and Damian Martin, take notice of those predictions. Damo, I think you've got Maggie right beside you, so we need to let you go. But thanks for joining us for this first show of Hoops Evans Basketball Hustle for 2021. We'll come back next week and reveal your charity for the season, and we'll find out who you're going to be raising money for. But for this week, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. I've walked about 2 kilometres trying to keep Maggie and her iPad noise at a distance, so I appreciate you putting up with it.
You did well.
Maggie, I've been retired, 7 months. Maggie still introduces herself as Maggie Martin from the Perth Wildcats. I need to work on that, but we'll see how we go. But thanks, guys. Enjoy the basketball.
No, thanks very much, Damo. Okay, Sean. So there we go. It's been a big show. Had a lot of fun with Damo. Your predictions with him are going to be fascinating to follow. We'll put those up on social media for everyone to take note of. And starting next week, we'll come back and you'll start putting your money where your mouth is, and you and Damo will come back with your charity partners, and we'll start raising some money for Tab Touch. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, we are looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting season. I'm excited to see how round 1 plays out. I think the home teams are looking favorable at the moment, but it's going to be an interesting year, and I can't wait to finally get NBL basketball back.